WNBA, I'm talking players, coaches, and refs. They're all a bunch of Caitlin Clark haters. They're all a bunch of jealous haters.
Yep.
Yes, you heard it right. The face of the WNBA, Caitlin Clark, who has single-handedly transformed the league with her jaw-dropping performances, has been thrust into a firestorm of controversy. Known for breaking records, packing arenas, and redefining what it means to be a basketball phenom, Caitlin is now being unfairly targeted for her stance on racial equity. After becoming Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year, a recognition she more than earned, Caitlin acknowledged her so-called white privilege and praised black athletes for their contributions to the WNBA. What followed was nothing short of a media circus. Instead of celebrating her accomplishments, critics pounced on her statement, twisting it into a political battleground.
She had a record-breaking season with the Indiana Fever in the WNBA. She shattered 6 rookie records for points and assists, 4 franchise records, and multiple all-time NBA records, including the most assists in a single game, 19. Reflecting on her impact, she stated, "I've been able to captivate so many people that have never watched women's sports."
Now, headlines are everywhere claiming she was forced to bow to pressure from league insiders and vocal critics alike. But let's dig deeper. Was this about Caitlin trying to unite a league torn by racial narratives? Or was she cornered into making a statement that alienated her fan base and bolstered the very critics who have been attacking her for years? From subtle bullying to blatant racial accusations, Caitlin has faced more than her fair share of hostility from players like Angel Reese and Aja Wilson, who've never missed an opportunity to undermine her.
It's killing you that a straight white woman has come into the League of Angry Lesbians and dominated everything.
This video isn't just about Caitlin Clark's apology, it's about how the narrative surrounding her has spiraled out of control. From the league's internal politics to her critics' relentless agenda, we'll break it all down. Buckle up, because this story is about more than basketball. It's about power, race, and the price of standing out in the spotlight. Caitlin Clark has always been celebrated for her ability to rise above the noise, but this time, the noise got to her. Or was it forced upon her?
I don't think the WNBA is ready for this type of attention that she's bringing. Racism. Everybody's talking about enough with the racist BS. She's nasty. She knows how to ball. Everybody else is jealous. They're pissed off because she's getting this, like, it's ridiculous. And we're never going to advance as a species, and we're never, if he keeps having that type of attitude.
After being named Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year, an accolade that recognized her extraordinary contributions to basketball, Caitlin made a statement that stunned many of her fans. She publicly acknowledged her white privilege and credited black women for building the WNBA. To some, this seemed like a humble gesture of recognition. To others, it felt like a betrayal of her own accomplishments and an unnecessary attempt to appease critics.
If you really mean it, if what you really want is the spotlight on the black players, then don't say you'll sit for the profile. Sorry, Paul, but this is ridiculous.
But was Caitlin's acknowledgement genuine, or was it a reaction to relentless pressure? For months, she had been the target of hostility within the WNBA. Players like Angel Reese and Aja Wilson, 2 of her most vocal detractors, have consistently painted her as an outsider in a league they claim belongs to black athletes. This isn't just about basketball anymore. It's about power dynamics, race, and who gets to claim ownership of the league's narrative.
Caitlin Clark just came in to play basketball. All of a sudden, the black women of the WNBA decided to knock her on her ass from behind. All of a sudden, the black women, Angel Reese and her teammates, decided to cheer for them. All of a sudden, other black women decided, like Aja Wilson, to be idiots when talking about her, jealous when they're talking about her. Caitlin Clark and her fans didn't start anything.
Caitlin's acknowledgement, whether sincere or coerced, only added fuel to an already raging fire. The timing of her statement raises even more questions. Caitlin has faced aggressive on-court behavior, scratches, shoves, and even thinly veiled verbal attacks, all caught on camera, yet she has never retaliated. Instead, she stayed focused, leading her team, scoring big, and putting fans in seats. So why, after enduring so much, would she feel the need to address her race and privilege now? Some argue that it wasn't Caitlin's choice, but the result of external pressures, both from within the league and from media narratives that have made her a target of social commentary.
There is a lot of appropriate attention on Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, and we found out that the Fever Storm game from over the weekend drew 2.2 million viewers, which is massive. The WNBA has 18 games this season where they've had more than 1 million viewers average, and 16 of those 18 have featured Caitlin Clark. So you cannot deny the connectivity of Caitlin Clark playing basketball and people wanting to watch. If she's playing, they will come, they will watch the game.
Critics of her statement were quick to point out the double standards. Imagine Serena Williams being asked to apologize for dominating a predominantly white sport like tennis, or Tiger Woods making similar remarks about golf. It's unheard of. Those athletes were celebrated for breaking barriers and excelling in their respective sports, regardless of race. Yet Caitlyn, despite elevating the WNBA to new heights with her skill and charisma, has been cornered into acknowledging privilege, a move that seems designed to silence her critics rather than inspire unity. In many ways, Caitlyn's acknowledgement feels like a lose-lose situation. By speaking out, she hoped to bridge divides and highlight the collective effort of all players in the WNBA. Instead, her words were dissected, misinterpreted, and weaponized against her. Instead of bringing people together, it gave her detractors another angle to attack her, portraying her as someone who only thrives because of her race rather than her undeniable talent. Caitlyn's acknowledgement might have been an olive branch, but in the hands of her critics, it's become a weapon.
No one cares what skin color you are. You know what America loves? Let me break it down for you. We absolutely love one thing. You know what it is? Underdogs. We don't care about your color. We don't care if you're married, single, divorced. We don't care about anything. We love humble underdogs. We just do.
Caitlyn Clark's acknowledgement of white privilege didn't land as she might have hoped. Instead of being seen as a gesture of humility or an effort to foster inclusivity, it became a lightning rod for criticism. Some called it insincere, others called it unnecessary. But one thing was clear: her statement drew a line in the sand. Critics who were already vocal about her dominance in the league pounced on this moment to twist her words and tarnish her reputation. Among the loudest voices were her so-called rivals, Angel Reese and Aja Wilson, who seemed to revel in the opportunity to undermine Caitlyn. For them, this was more ammunition to discredit her success. They claimed her popularity wasn't because of her talent, but because of her race, a narrative they've pushed for months. These claims conveniently ignore Caitlyn's record-breaking stats, her ability to sell out arenas, and her magnetic appeal that has brought new fans to the WNBA. Instead, they frame her success as the result of racial bias, fueling division rather than celebrating what Caitlyn has done for the league as a whole.
But as a white person, there is privilege. And it just makes me sad that she reacted the way that she did, because Caitlyn Clark is so talented.
But the criticism didn't stop there. Even her fans, who had stood by her through on-court bullying and off-court drama, began to feel alienated. Many saw her acknowledgement as a capitulation to a mob mentality rather than a genuine expression of her beliefs. To them, Caitlyn's statement wasn't about unity, it was about bending the knee to those who had bullied her. This created a deep sense of betrayal among her supporters, who had admired her for standing strong in the face of adversity. Suddenly, the Caitlyn Clark they idolized, the one who played fearlessly and refused to be silenced, seemed to be wavering. Media narratives didn't help either. Major outlets latched onto her statement, spinning it into a larger story about race in the WNBA. Headlines painted her as a privileged outsider who owed her success to systemic inequalities, completely disregarding her unparalleled contributions to the league. The conversation shifted from her groundbreaking achievements to whether she was deserving of the recognition she had earned. Critics conveniently ignored the fact that Caitlyn's presence has revitalized the WNBA, making her games the most watched and her merchandise the best-selling. Instead, they reduced her to a symbol of controversy, sidelining her talent in favor of sensationalism.
The whole notion that she's just been given white privilege, really, okay, tell that to the greatest black female athletes of all time. It's absolute ridiculous. She deserved where she was at because she was a good player.
The irony is hard to miss. Caitlyn's critics demand acknowledgement for their own contributions while simultaneously dismissing hers. They argue that the league was built on the backs of black athletes, a sentiment Caitlyn herself echoed in her statement. Yet these same critics are quick to belittle her efforts, ignoring the fact that she has brought more attention and revenue to the WNBA than most players in recent history. In trying to appease her detractors, Caitlyn didn't just fail to win them over, she also risked losing the support of those who admired her the most. The very acknowledgement that was meant to bridge the divide only widened it, leaving Caitlyn in an even more precarious position. This moment highlights a harsh reality. In today's polarized climate, even the most well-intentioned statements can be weaponized. For Caitlyn, this isn't just a learning experience, it's a turning point. She's no longer just a basketball player. She's become a symbol of everything from race relations to media bias. And as the critics continue to circle, the question remains: how will Caitlyn rise above this storm and reclaim the narrative? Caitlin Clark's situation goes beyond just one statement or even her dominance on the court. It's a reflection of a larger cultural battle playing out in the world of sports. For decades, basketball has been a space where talent has spoken louder than anything else. Points scored, games won, and championships earned are supposed to define success. Yet Caitlin's rise has exposed cracks in this foundation, with narratives of race and privilege overshadowing her unparalleled contributions to the WNBA. To understand the backlash, you have to look at the bigger picture. Caitlin isn't just any player, she's a phenomenon. She brought new life to the WNBA, breaking viewership records and packing stadiums wherever she played. But this spotlight also made her a target. For some, her achievements are celebrated as proof of her greatness. For others, they are a reminder of how much attention she commands in a league historically dominated by black athletes. These tensions didn't appear overnight. They've been simmering for years as conversations about equity and representation have taken center stage in sports. One glaring inconsistency in the criticism Caitlin faces is how differently trailblazers of other races are treated in similar situations. Consider Serena Williams, who redefined tennis in a sport dominated by white athletes, or Tiger Woods, who revolutionized golf. Both faced their own battles with prejudice, but were ultimately celebrated for breaking barriers. They were never asked to apologize for their success or make public acknowledgments of privilege. In contrast, Caitlin, despite her talent and hard work, finds herself cornered into making statements that critics have weaponized against her.
You know, for whatever reason, they decide to get themselves involved, whether it is actually malintent or maybe they just want to get themselves in the headline. A lot of players got the spotlight this season because of Caitlin Clark. Not to mention just overall, Caitlin Clark brought millions, literally, more eyeballs to the league this season.
This isn't just about Caitlin. It's about how sports narratives are shaped today. Media outlets, particularly those with political agendas, have increasingly turned athletes into symbols of social issues. Caitlin's acknowledgement of white privilege didn't come out of nowhere. It followed months of being labeled a beneficiary of systemic racism, with detractors arguing that her fame is more about her race than her ability. These arguments completely ignore her undeniable stats, her knack for thrilling comebacks, and her ability to draw both die-hard basketball fans and casual viewers into the WNBA. Even the league itself has contributed to the pressure Caitlin faces. The WNBA has long marketed itself as a progressive organization, often intertwining its brand with social movements like Black Lives Matter. While this alignment has its merits, it has also created an environment where players like Caitlin are caught in the crossfire. For her, simply excelling at her craft isn't enough. The expectations placed on her go far beyond basketball, forcing her to navigate a minefield of social and racial politics in addition to her responsibilities as a player. Critics like Angel Reese and Aja Wilson haven't helped matters. Instead of recognizing Caitlin's ability to bring attention to the league, they frame her as an outsider, encroaching on what they see as their domain. Their jabs aren't just personal, they're part of a broader push to reinforce divisions within the league. Caitlin's acknowledgement, likely intended to diffuse some of this tension, only gave them more fuel to further their narrative. And the media, always hungry for controversy, eagerly amplified their voices. What's truly tragic about this situation is how much Caitlin has done for the WNBA, yet how little credit she's given. Her presence has made the league more relevant than ever, bringing in new fans, increasing revenue, and sparking conversations about women's sports on a global scale. Instead of celebrating these achievements, critics focus on her skin color, reducing her impact to a political talking point. In trying to navigate this storm, Caitlin has become a symbol of a much larger cultural divide, one where talent often takes a back seat to identity politics. As Caitlin moves forward, she faces an uphill battle. She must find a way to reclaim the narrative without losing sight of what makes her great, her game. Whether she'll be remembered as a victim of a polarized culture or as someone who rose above it to define her legacy is still up to her. What's clear is that the WNBA and sports as a whole are at a crossroads, and Caitlin Clark is standing right in the middle of it. The broader context also reveals an uncomfortable truth about how societal pressures can undermine the very progress they claim to champion. Caitlin Clark's success should be celebrated as a testament to hard work, resilience, and the ability to inspire fans across all demographics. Instead, her achievements are being scrutinized through the lens of race, detracting from the strides she has made in elevating women's basketball. This isn't just unfair to Caitlin, it's a disservice to the league as a whole. At a time when the WNBA is fighting for relevance in a competitive sports market, tearing down its brightest star only weakens its position.
When I look at Caitlin Clark, fans are tuning in to watch her. And you know who that's helping? Everybody else.
What Caitlin Clark does is kind of simple, really. She shows up at games, she signs autographs, she talks to little girls wearing jerseys, she smiles to the crowd, and then here's the most important thing. She competes like a maniac. I mean, like a maniac.
Moreover, Caitlin's story has highlighted the growing disconnect between fans and the narratives being pushed in professional sports. Many fans tune in for the love of the game, to see talent, strategy, and raw competition, not to be bombarded with divisive rhetoric. Caitlin was a beacon for those fans, a player who seemed to transcend the noise with her focus on performance. Her statement, however well-intentioned, risked alienating this loyal base, making them feel as though their support was being taken for granted. If the WNBA wants to thrive, it must strike a balance between addressing social issues and preserving the competitive spirit that makes sports worth watching. Caitlin Clark's journey in the WNBA is far from over, but this recent controversy has shown just how challenging the road ahead will be. Despite the criticism and relentless scrutiny, Caitlin has an opportunity to rise above the noise and continue doing what she does best, dominating on the court and inspiring countless fans worldwide. Her talent, determination, and ability to transcend the game have already made her a star. The question now is whether she can navigate these external pressures while staying true to herself and her love for basketball. The narrative surrounding Caitlin isn't just about one player. It's a reflection of the broader cultural shifts happening in sports today. Whether she's celebrated or criticized, Caitlin has become a lightning rod for conversations about race, privilege, and the power dynamics within professional leagues. But at the core of this storm is a simple truth. Caitlin Clark is a generational talent, someone who has elevated women's basketball to levels it hasn't seen before. Her impact should be judged by her accomplishments, not reduced to the social debates swirling around her. For her critics, including players like Angel Reese and Aja Wilson, the spotlight on Caitlin may be a bitter pill to swallow, but rather than tearing her down, they could take a moment to acknowledge how much her presence has done for the league they share. Caitlin's rise isn't just her victory, it's an opportunity for the WNBA as a whole to grow, attract new fans, and gain the recognition it deserves. By continuing to attack her, they're only creating more division in a league that desperately needs unity. As this story unfolds, one thing is certain: Caitlin Clark is not backing down. She has faced bullying, racial accusations, and now the fallout of a polarizing statement, yet she continues to push forward. Her ability to stay focused on the game, despite the distractions, is a testament to her strength and resilience. In the end, her legacy won't be defined by the opinions of her critics, but by her ability to rise above them. Caitlin Clark's story is still being written, and if there's one thing we know about her, it's that she'll continue to shine brighter than ever, no matter how dark the storm gets.